Hi George, our introduction was incidental. I saw on Facebook one photo from Lwów. Afterwards, you wrote me that on this photo was your father.
Yes, Maria, I remember.
House of your family was at Sykstuska Street, number 29. In Lwów, of course.
Exactly. And now it's Doroshenka, number 29.
Your father and all your family were in Lwów at 19th of 20th century.
Let me tell you about that, Maria. In 1992, I took my wife, Valerie, and my children, Luke and Leah and Russia, on a 1-month trip through Europe. But my father, Victor Perantoni, was not with us. When we returned to Florida, I showed photos of our trip to Europe to Victor. He recognized most of the places, but then he saw my photos of the concentration camp, and he asked, "Where is this?" I answered, "Auschwitz-Birkenau." Victor became serious, and he repeated, "Where? Where is it?" I answered, "It's near the city of Katowice." He said, "Katowice? Katowice in Polonia? You were in Polonia?" I answered, "Yes, Papa, we went to Poland. Papa, you should have seen how impressed Valerie, my wife, was about Poland. For Valerie, Poland was the best part of our trip. Better than Paris, better than Rome, better than Vienna. Why? Because, Papa, in the United States, black people have always been second-class citizens. But in Poland, people worship a Black Madonna." Victor exclaimed loudly, "You went to Czestochowa?" I answered, "Si, Papa, and Cracovia." That's Krakow. Victor exclaimed louder, "You were in Cracovia? But how, George? How did you get in Poland?" I replied, "The borders are open now, Papa. Ever since the Iron Curtain fell last year, Poland has become free again." Then Victor stared straight into my eyes, and he said, "Did you go to Leopoli?" I replied, "No, Papa. Poland has open borders, but Ukraine requires a visa. We did not have visas." Victor became silent for a moment, and then he said, "Good." And I said, "Why good?" Victor said, "Because I would feel terrible that my son was able to go to Leopoli before me, without me. I want to show Lvov to you, my dear son. I'm still a young man, George. I'm only 81 years old. Take me back to Leopoli, George." "But, Papa," I said, "we need visas." And he replied, "I will write to the embassy in Kyiv and I will get visas for both of us. And you, dear George, take your old Papa back to Leopoli. Take me back to my beloved Lwów." It was going to take Victor some time to renew his United States passport, and even more time to obtain visas from Ukraine. So I went back to work, and then, without much delay, I was able to take him to Lvov in 1995.
At your house, at house that in the past was your, you met Mr. Bogdan.
Yes, Maria. His name was Krupa Bogdan, and he lived with his family on the premises of my father's beloved Viniarnia Italia, operating a fuel oil service business for many years, like his father before him. The street was renamed from Sykstuska to now it is Doroshenka, number 29, and my father was happy to be back. Bogdan's father received our Viniaria in 1946 from the communist government, and Bogdan was born there. Amazing coincidence. Victor was born there also. Amazing that Victor was able to meet Krupa and talk with him about all the years that he had been absent, 1939 to 1995, the missing 57-year history of Victor's Viniarnia Italia. Bogdan was a very friendly person. He showed all the rooms to Victor and explained how the large wine hall had been made into 5 separate rooms. We ate with him and he ate with us. Below are pictures of Bogdan and Victor. On left, they're standing in front of the former Viniaria's courtyard passage, and on the right, they're in Krupa's office. Krupa spoke good English.
Can you tell us about this meeting? About emotion and experience?
Yes, Maria, it was very emotional. We arrived in Lwów in the evening, and we checked in at the Hotel George. Victor chose the hotel for its 200-year history, and he was very excited at the thought of being back in Lwów. His excitement had become a restless night. He was like a child in bed on Christmas Eve, unable to sleep in the eagerness of finding the morning's gifts. The thoughts that were keeping Victor from falling asleep was the clear anticipation of getting up early and walking to Sykstuska 29 for the first time after 57 years. Finally, morning came, and Victor was ready to dash into the streets. But I insisted that he eat breakfast first, so we had breakfast in the restaurant cafeteria of the Hotel George. After breakfast, he became the leader. He knew exactly where to go. He was twice my age, but walking twice as fast as I normally walk. He pointed at a street sign and said, "This is Ulica Sykstuska." And I said, "Then why is it marked Doroshenka?" He just looked at me and grinned. He had no problem finding his birth home, the former Viniarnia Italia. He did not ask for directions and he did not use a street map. Although the city streets had been renamed in Ukrainian, he knew the old city well and led us straight to Sykstuska, or Doroshenka, number 29, without any hesitation. And there I was, my first time standing in front of the former Viniarnia Italia at Ulica Sykstuska, number 29. It was the right building, but it was not the Viniarnia Italia. Instead, it was Bogdan's fuel heater business on Doroshenka, number 29. Victor began describing to me how the Viniarnia storefront used to look when he was a young man before the war. I didn't have any to ask any questions. His nonstop monologue was accurate and very descriptive. He was dreaming of the past and motioning and gesturing every detail. He was indicating and pointing for me to see where the entrance door used to be and where the wine business signs were located above the entrance, etc., and so forth. There was a man seated at the desk directly inside the storefront window. It was Krupa Bogdan, observing us from his desk behind the window. He assumed who we were from the tourist attire and from observing Victor gesturing and pointing at his building. So he came out to greet us. He opened an old book and he tried to pronounce our name by asking, "Karl Pe-ran-toni?" My father burst into tears. Then he replied in Polish, choking out, "No, Carlo is my father." And he kept crying, "I am Victor. I am Carlo's son." And he cried as the two men shook hands and embraced. Victor had cried tears of happiness because on his first day in Lwów, after his 57-year absence, a person recognized him. It was as if Victor had returned to the Viniarnia Italia after a 6-year World War and 57 years of Cold War. And upon arriving, a person came out from the Viniarnia and greeted him personally. What an emotional event it was! Krupa Bogdan was very friendly and courteous. He was about my age. He was born after the war and after Poland's new communist government had assigned our family's Viniaria to his father in 1946. Bogdan invited us inside and he took Victor on a room by room tour, showing him the rooms that had been partitioned and remodeled from the previous wine hall of the Viniarnia Italia wine and pasta tavern. Bogdan grew up there and he told Victor many details about having lived there all those post-war years. Likewise, Victor grew up there also, and he shared with Krupa his experiences of growing up in the same building during the 1920s and 1930s. We met with Krupa 4 times during our trip. He took us to city archives and to offices of historical research, and we took him to eat with us at restaurants. He kept in touch with us until Victor's death in 2002 at the age of 90. The photos below show Victor telling Krupa about the wine bottles that our family had left there in September 1939. They are standing by the wine cellar, and he is telling Krupa about the 2 wine entrances. One was used for the delivery, transport delivery, and the other for the Winiarnia sales business. They communicated in English mostly, with some Polish mixed in. And these are 2 letters from Krupa. One is a Christmas card written in English, and the other is a reply to Victor's inquiry for the address of the Lviv archives. The following year, in 1996, Krupa Bogdan and his family had relocated to Toronto, Canada. Meeting him had been a rare and special privilege. It had been an opportunity that would not have been possible if we had delayed our trip to Lvov just 1 more year. Occasionally, I keep in touch with his daughter on Facebook. A lot more can be told about the trip I took to Lviv with my father in 1995, and time permitting, it will be continued. However, no portion of it comes from Arrivederci Leopolis or the War of Lions or Reprisal of Lions. It's just the trip that I took to Lviv with my father in 1995. Some of it is also exciting. So then, until the next time, if there will be a next time, I wish you all a happy new year 2020, and thank you, Maria, for having given me the opportunity of this interview and for sharing it with the Polish community in Lwów.